In this next section, we're going to not only find the excluded values for each rational expression, but we're also going to simplify the rational expression. And so how do you simplify rational expressions? Well, here's a couple of ways that you can do it, right? First, you want to look for common factors in all the terms to cancel out. And then you want to factor expressions that are factorable and cancel out common factors. Or maybe the expression is already in simplest form. Right? So these are just things you want to look out for. And in the next page, we have a bunch of different problems, and they're all slightly different. So let's go ahead and go over each of them. The first one is 36x squared over 2x. Right? State the excluded values. So we want to simplify and state the excluded values. So how can we do this? Well, you could see here we have a 2 times x in the denominator. Right? So what we want to do is factor out a 2 from 36, right? Because if we factor out a 2 from 36, then we can cancel out the 2 in the numerator and the 2 in the denominator, because there'll be a factor of 2 in the numerator and there'll be a factor of 2 in the denominator. So we can cancel them out. And so you want to ask yourself, can 2 evenly divide 36? And yes, it can. Right? So let's go ahead and do that. So 36x squared over 2x is going to equal 2. And I'm going to factor out a 2 from 36. So it's going to be 2 times 18 times x, right? So I'm going to break up my x into 2 factors of x times x because it's x squared. And down in the bottom, the denominator, I have 2 times x. So now you can see that all of these are factors because they're all multiplied by each other, right? That's what a factor is when you're multiplying values together. That's opposed to here, where the 15 and the 5x are not factors because we're subtracting. Right? Factors are where you're multiplying. So I want to be clear on that. So we can go ahead. We have a 2 in the numerator as a factor, so we can cancel those out. And we have a x in the numerator and denominator, so we can cancel one of those out. Right. So our simplified form is going to be 18x. And some of you might be thinking, okay, well, it's 18x over 0. But that's not true. All right? It's 18x over 1. And any number over 1 is the same as just that number. So I'm going to ignore the divided by 1 and just leave it as 18x. And then you want to think about the excluded values, right? Well, let's say it was 18x over 1, right? What would be the excluded values? Well, what are excluded values? They are values for the variable that make the denominator equal to 0. So is there any value for x that will make the denominator here equal to 0? No, there's not, because the denominator is a constant. It is 1, right? So I'm going to say 18x is the simplified form, and I'm going to say the excluded values are nothing, so empty set, right? No values for the excluded value. All right, let's go ahead and look at number 4. So here we do not have factors, right? So 15 and minus 5x are not factors because we're subtracting, we're not multiplying. Factors are where you multiply. So what we want to do in this case is now we have terms, right? These are not factors, these are terms. We have the 5x is one term, we have the 15 is another term, and then in the denominator we have a 5x. Okay. So what we want to do is look for greatest common factor amongst the 3 terms. Right? And so is there a greatest common factor amongst 5, 15, and 5? Of course. 5 is the greatest common factor between 15, 5, and 5. So in the numerator, we're going to factor out a 5. Okay? So I'm going to pull a 5 out, and that's going to leave me with, well, what times 5 is equal to 15? Right? Well, 3 times 5 is equal to 15. And then now, what times 5 is equal to negative 5x? That's a negative x. Okay. over 5 times x. So if you're unsure if you factored out correctly, we can go back and distribute and see, do we result in the same numerator? Well, we get 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times negative x is negative 5x. So the numerator is correctly factored. And now we're looking, and here we have 5 times this parentheses, right? So we have two factors in the numerator, 5 and then this binomial 3 minus x. In the denominator, we have two factors. We have 5 times x. So are there any common factors in the numerator and denominator so we can cancel them out? Well, yes. We have a 5 up here and we have a 5 down here. So we can cancel out the 5's. And what does that leave us with? It leaves us with 3 minus x over x. And that's our simplified form. Right? There's no more common factors that we can pull out. And there's nothing more we can cancel out in the numerator and denominator. And now we're looking at the excluded values. Right? What are the excluded values? Values that for the variable that make the denominator equal to 0. So in this case, what would it be? Well, we'll take the denominator and we'll set it equal to 0. Right? And so this is the excluded value for this rational expression. Let's go ahead and put it down. 3 minus x over x is our simplified version, and our excluded value is 0. Right? So maybe I can do the other problems in another video.